And 2024 recap and 2025 predictions, our opinions. Let's go.
Okay, 24 was an interesting year. I think we ended the year with a little bit of hope and a little bit of promise for 25.
Yeah.
We've got our fingers crossed there's a rate cut coming. We don't know when that's going to be. So I think whilst it's, I think everybody's waiting for a rate cut
Yeah.
because confidence will come back very, very
Correct.
quickly. But I would urge all owners and buyers out in the market. No one ever predicts the top or the bottom of the market.
Correct.
I know buyers like to kind of hold off. We're just going to wait for the bottom of the
Exactly.
market. But the bottom might have already happened.
Yeah, true.
And I think the tidal wave of interest is going to come back very quickly.
Yeah.
And as an owner, I would be getting on the market sooner rather than later.
Yes, if you're thinking of selling, yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because what we saw in the back half of 24 was a lot of owners were very safe with their sale campaigns. And by
Correct.
safe, I mean they were probably just putting it on as private sale, sticking it on with a slightly higher price to room to negotiate.
Yeah.
And that wasn't working. What works, we know, in any marketplace is auction, have it quoted, accurately to the value, and then having a 4-week concise
Yes.
time plan and time sale.
Exactly. And I think deadlines, there's a reason why auction works. There's a few reasons.
Yeah.
Number one is understanding the timelines. You have some sort of understanding and prediction that your home would likely sell in 28 to 30 days,
Yep.
or perhaps before if you get a good offer. It does happen where auctions do bring out a pre-auction offer.
Absolutely.
Which is at a certain price, which is above expectations as well.
Yep.
And or perhaps understanding how the campaign's going. And then thereafter, you may be able to sort of make that informed decision rather than private sale, hoping that the next offer would be much better.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
does certainly make a difference as well.
And private sales tend to linger on the market usually too long.
Yeah.
It's very rare to have a private sale that's only on for a week or two. It's usually 8-9 weeks. And then in that time, there's usually 2 or 3 properties that can get sold in a 10-week period. And your property all of a sudden is just stale. And buyers have seen it. They've seen it as it comes around the carousel on realestate.com. Oh, there it is again. Oh, there it is again. And they'll shy away from it. So I think that the auction creates an immediate response, an immediate decision from both buyer, obviously seller.
Correct.
But buyer, when marketed correctly, and I think that's the key point in this real estate market, wherein you have to market your home correctly, and there's a
Correct.
number of ways to do that. Obviously, Jazz will explain that when he meets with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose with the auctions, what we have seen in 2024 is the vendors have actually achieved, if you look back 3 to 4 months after, the vendors have actually achieved really great outcomes as well.
Yeah.
Now, yes, private sales do work well in a different sort of situation. Again, it's all about understanding the market, understanding which property is ideal for private sale or an auction. However, the urgency and that thought process, like we had at 5 Caribou as well recently.
That's right, Caribou
That
Way,
property there was probably, in my personal opinion, that buyer who just showed up on that day as well was obviously in the market. And funny thing is that purchaser made an offer on our other property.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So they had an offer on a property that they made about 2 days before that auction. Same day on Saturday, they would have been accepted. Now, look at the likelihood of cooling off in a private sale.
Yeah, correct. That's
Where this purchaser, had it been another agent's auction, we wouldn't know that the purchaser, after making an offer on a contract for the deposit, is still going around attending auctions.
Yes.
And he attended that auction, he started raising his hands, and thereafter he ended up buying. And when we sat down on the table, he said, "How do I retract from the other offer?" Now, I didn't knew at that point because all the inspections were done by his wife. I'd never met him.
Yeah.
And I didn't knew up until the time he sat down and he told me that I want to pull out of the other offer. Because I was thinking that 5 Caribou sold at auction, now 31 Solitude will also go on under hammer, under contract today.
Yeah. And that's the danger of private sale, because it does leave the cooling off there.
Exactly.
It opens it up to subject to finance, subject to building, subject to pests, subject to the sale of my property.
Subject to me
anything.
waking up in the morning.
Subject to Jazz not wearing the jacket. But like it's honestly auction has a great benefit. But again,
Yeah.
the key part to it is be bold and be brave if you're an owner, because everybody else is doing private sale. You go the other way, you'll find that you'll get a lot more attention a lot quicker, and you'll get a better
Yeah.
result. But again, there are some contingencies that you need to work
Of course.
with the agent Jazz.
Exactly, and I think there's no wrong or right about the method of sale. It's just that you understand the dynamics, what's listed around you, and you want to be more competitive. There's a lot of risk. There's great things about private sale as well. However, today we're talking about auctions and benefits of auction. Number one thing is one property gets sold for less than what you want, not because the property was worthless, it's maybe the personal situation of the other vendor. Or perhaps they may have purchased that property probably say about 10 years ago and they bought it for 300,000 and they're selling it for 900 instead of mil.
Yeah.
They're still walking away with a good chunk. However, you purchased a property, let's say 4 years ago, for $850,000. For you, that $150,000 increase is very important.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, if another sale happens at 9920, that puts a comparable in the buyer's mind
Yeah,
that, okay, well, that sold for 920. Why would I go 1 mil for this home?
yeah.
And then, in my opinion, what I've seen is it takes a bit longer for the vendors to accept the reality as well,
For sure.
which means the private sale will then go a lot more longer by the time they get offers which are lower than that.
Yep.
And that's when you look back and say 920 or 910 offer was good.
Yeah.
And it's gone by then.
And another thing we haven't talked about is that with auction, you can do private sale after if it hasn't sold. You can do,
Exactly.
you do private sale before auction day. You got the benefit of both methods. And if you are wanting $800,000 and we take it to market in an auction format, and there's little or no bidding, well, it's a good test of value as well. You
Correct.
know pretty quickly maybe the $800,000 is a little bit ambitious.
Correct.
Maybe we're more a 750. I don't know, but
Yes.
But auction, if it's worth 800, will get you
Sometimes 8 or more.
8 or more.
Exactly.
Yep.
What do you think would happen in 2025?
My prediction is, and this is the great thing about doing these videos, is you can go back and see if we're right or if we know what we're talking about. But I think my opinion is that we will see a pretty similar market to what we're in now. So an even number of buyers and sellers that are on the market. The minute there is a rate drop, hopefully there's a rate drop, you will see a little bit more confidence returning, more so from the buyers drive the market. They drive, and they're the determining factor more so than sellers. So you'll see more buyers come into the market. That should then inch prices up a little bit.
Yeah.
But again, economists are wrong all the time.
Of course.
And we're not. Who
We're
knows
not
what's going to
economists,
happen?
exactly.
A rate cut might not do anything.
Exactly. And I suppose what we're seeing in Point Cook and surrounding suburbs at the moment is slight increase in the buyer inquiry.
Oh yeah.
And for some properties, it's a lot more stronger.
Yes. And what those properties, just on that, why do you think that is? Is it a certain price range of property? Is it a quality of build or renovation? What is it?
I suppose it's more around this time of the year is generally busier.
Yep.
Generally busier.
Here.
In Point Cook, yeah. Jan, Feb, March is generally slightly busier. You would see a lot more activity. The backlog of those buyers will start clearing. So it is a perfect time to have your property ready for sale. Jan, early Feb, mid Feb. And there's a good chance that you could potentially get a really good outcome, because a lot of the times people are busy getting their houses ready. They start thinking more so towards April, May.
Yeah, sure.
And some people would be started planning in Jan, Feb. If you are a smart vendor, you would probably start planning things in October, November, December.
Of course, yeah.
Have the property ready. If there's works need to be done, maybe early Jan, December, get it ready. Or perhaps list now, launch later.
Yes, which is
List in
which has been a
December.
great method that
Exactly.
you've had in the past.
We had a lot of clients who've signed the paperwork, got the contracts ready in December, and their launches are scheduled in Feb as well. So there's that. Number two, the buyer demand is a lot more stronger. Number three is some buyers have voiced that what if the rate cuts happen and there's a lot more competition in the market?
Yeah.
That's one aspect to look at. Like you said, it may go inch by inch, so it's not going to be drastical increase in the prices. So the vendors have to be also careful, saying $1 million property would not go up to 1.2. It's still buyer driven market
For
where
sure. Yeah.
the recent sale prices will actually determine. Now, you might look back and say, okay, I'll probably wait another 3 months, let the others sell, and see what the results are.
Of course. Yeah.
So, again, it's all about testing and waiting and
Yeah.
hoping, and there's nothing right or wrong. It depends on your situation.
Of course, and you made an interesting point there about the 1 million to 1.2, and we have seen cases. You
Yeah,
and I have seen cases of that exact where you might have marketed the core value of the home might be around about $1 million,
exactly.
and we've marketed it 950 to 1 million or thereabouts, and then on the day it's gotten 150 or whatever,
Correct.
and you can't get that sort of result as a private sale because
Yes,
nobody pays over a price.
of
They're
course.
always paying under the price.
Exactly.
And secondly, to get the right buyers to the property,
Of
if
course.
I've got 1 million, if I've got the capacity to spend $1.1 million,
Yeah,
and it's marketed, and that this home, let's say, use this as example, 950 to 1 million, and it's there in the marketplace, I'm still going to go and look at that house.
of course.
I'm still going to go and I think, well, I'm going to be saving. I can afford this. It's a lot better. Da,
Yeah,
da, da. So that's why the advertising around the auction is probably
the
the
most.
most important thing you can do in your campaign. You can have great photography, you can have a great video, you can have a great
Yes,
agent, you can have all
the
that
best
sort of
auctioneer.
stuff. Thank you. But it's the advertising range, and it's the and the product's got to back it up too.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And that's probably the prediction for 2025, where, but again, there's a downside, a potential, what I say to the vendors or the community in the marketplace, where you have to also be careful. It's all about supply and demand. Now, maybe the interest rate cuts would make other vendors feel more confident to go in the market, so there may be a surge in the listings as well.
Which then is a problem for vendors because there's more competition. You want to
Exactly.
be marketing your home in isolation,
Yeah.
not in competition with other properties that are similar to
Exactly.
yours.
And unless the buyers, number of buyers either meet the supply or exceeds the supply in the market,
Yep,
that's where the great price is achieved at that point.
absolutely.
So, and again, or by a method of auction where sometimes people become impulsive on that day itself.
Yep.
And like we were discussing off the record as well, where some of the times, and this could potentially happen, it's all about mindset sometimes, it's about psychology as well.
Yeah.
Imagine if a purchaser standing at an auction who comes in with the mindset of perhaps going up to $1 million for a certain property, and there is a competition who goes 1,010,000, and their max was million. Now, a good agent who's doing the crowd work, that's where a separate topic about crowd work, having separate listing agent from the auctioneer is super critical as well. We'll
Absolutely.
talk about that.
Yep.
And if the listing agent who's met the buyer, who understands the buyer, would go to the buyer and say, hey, you know how the interest rates are potentially tracking at the moment. You're that close to getting a home. You're very close to the finish line.
Yep.
If you are an athlete, you're running, and you're very close to the finish line, would you not push yourself, or would you say, I'm tired,
Yeah.
right? And that mindset or that sort of education on that spot might help the purchaser to say, okay, well, I have my blinkers on, let's start with an open mind. An extra 10 grand could mean I'll secure the property. What if I miss out and I can't find the same property, a similar property in the next 1 or 2 months, and the market goes up? And what if I make an offer on a private sale to another property and my offer is not accepted for any reason and I miss out? The unknown. That could potentially get you under that competition influence,
Yeah.
an extra 10, 15, 20. You never know, because who knows what the other party will then bid.
Yeah, and that the emotional management, I think, is
Exactly.
a good way to describe it. The emotional management of those buyers in that moment, because we want to get the best price for the vendor, but we also want to be the facilitating agent to the buyers. So
Exactly.
we want to make it as easy for them as possible.
Exactly.
Whilst we do work for the vendor.
Yes.
But I mean, logically too. I mean, the difference between spending $1 million, $1,020,000 at an auction.
Exactly.
The bank might have approved to $1 million. I mean, the $20,000. This is why if you just go a little bit more, the $20,000 over a 30-year loan. The difference between $1 million and $1,020,000.
Exactly.
It's really not that much.
Not even a cappuccino a month.
Correct. We might get the calculator out and figure out how much it exactly is, but it's probably.
I've done the numbers.
It's probably $1 a week or something. It's not a lot, right?
It's a cappuccino a month.
So, it's But
you don't drink coffee.
No, I don't drink coffee. No. But that's the thing. So that's why that's why you're very good at that in auctions. As I said, you're the best in the business at doing it. When you give those buyers a little nudge, it's all it needs, just a little nudge, because then the other buyer's got to make a decision.
Of course.
And we have the same conversation with that other buyer as well. But again, it's really just up to them at the end of the day. But I think the emotional management is important. And having an agent knowing that is good too.
Very important, because I normally see in some of the auctions where the agents are standing perhaps about 5 meters away from the auctioneer.
Yep, just standing there with no
standing
arms
there
folded.
with the arms and then waiting, or maybe recording a video.
Yeah.
Right. The agent or a good practitioner's job is to actually make sure that they identify each and every buyer and understand who's going to register. That's another part as well, where in Victoria the buyers don't have to register. However, in our office we have a practice where we do create a registration link, and we do encourage everyone during our conversations and at the open home, even follow-up phone calls, emails, updated text messages that we sent out, that registration is mandatory. And you won't believe how many buyers would register, or if they still want to hide behind and we won't tell the agent that we will be turning up to the auction, they can't hide, because we would still send them SMSs and phone calls leading up to the auction day. And you won't believe how many people turn up, or perhaps call us a day before the auction, or sometimes 3 hours before the auction, saying, hey, can you send me the registration link? I will be attending today.
Yeah, that's right. And your auctions, and I've done auctions throughout this region, but with your auctions I've noticed wholeheartedly that the level of registration and or activity is far higher than some of your competitors. And the amount of paddles that are in the crowd at a jazz auction, it's at least half a dozen, and that's excellent for an agent in the area.
It's all about competition. That's why we call it our 21 steps price maximization competition creation strategy. So that's
a mouthful. Say that again. Do you want to say that again?
21 steps price maximization competition creation strategy.
Oh, that's very good. I couldn't get that out.
I've shortened it, 21 steps price maximization process.
Yeah, that's a bit too long to fit on a billboard, isn't it? Or a head on a,
maybe on a custom neon sign.
We'll sign it up. Yeah,
think out of the box, of course. That's why I always say think out of the box. Every time you're selling a house, think out of the box.
Yeah.
And the recent example I'd say is from the presentation side of it. Touching on presentation, I think it's critical. Aaron, you do a lot of auctions. Do you think, and we'll do maybe a quiz, maybe Q&A right at the end as well.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe a short answered one, maybe a bit of a fun there, where we'll talk about. Let's do it now.
Yeah, good idea.
Property tenanted or vacant?
Vacant.
Staged, non-staged?
Staged.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about both those points and why?
Yeah, go for it.
So the first one, vacant or tenanted. Look, it depends on the tenant, but 9 times out of 10, vacant is better. You can control, as an agent, we can go there anytime.
Yes.
You can show it to anybody, in the sense that we're not bound by the tenant's presentation, so we can control the presentation, which ties in with the staging.
Of course.
You are selling the image, and you are selling the promise of what the home could look like.
Yes.
You are showing the buyers how to live.
Correct.
In that, not everybody lives in Home Beautiful where they
Yeah.
can flick the page and they've got a lounge room with the throws on the
Yeah.
on the couch and you've got these fluffy, beautiful pillows. Because most often the kids or the adults mess it up. We
Correct.
live how we live, but you're showing the promise and the idea, the romance of
Yes.
of the home.
Emotional attachment with the house itself.
Yeah.
And
And staging is important for that. Yeah.
of course, and it certainly makes a difference. And I've got a recent example where we had a property listed in November end, and the property was tenanted. I've rocked up to the open homes, and again, I won't justify it by saying that, okay, well, it's been a lot of open homes. The tenants were flexible with the open homes. After 5 or 6 open homes, one could turn around and say, well, the tenants are also sick and tired. That's okay
Yeah.
for what they did at the open home. I rocked up to the open home and I could smell nice food. Great.
Tummy rumbling.
I was actually hungry at that point. But when I walked in, what I saw was tenants and their 5 friends sitting in the cinema room right in the middle of the house, eating.
Yeah.
And they looked at me, their mouth full, they're like, welcome.
Yeah.
And I was like, I literally cancelled the inspection.
Yeah. You had to.
No open home that time.
Yeah.
We
And tenants,
stood outside, said, sorry guys,
yeah.
the open home's cancelled.
Tenants don't have the same level of care or interest in a sale campaign
Yeah.
that the vendor does, obviously. Some tenants can get in the way of the sale, as we've seen,
Yeah.
intentionally or otherwise.
Yes.
So, yeah, I suppose that they're the benefits as to why I think vacant and staged. And staging too, the stages are excellent with figuring out room sizes and also
Correct.
accentuating room size, so the feel is bigger.
Exactly.
And declutter. They don't put too much stuff in, but they don't.
Of course.
They make sure that they fill out the necessary rooms.
Exactly. And staging, and now that same property has been staged. The tenants were vacated
Right.
in Jan. The property got staged. We did the first open home afterwards. We didn't have a large amount of groups. We had about 4 groups coming through, obviously after we increased the price range. A lot of the people think that when we do a price adjustment, we did opposite. We did a price adjustment. However, once the property was in a presentable stage, and that was with the mindset of course, we understand we may not get due to that, and then we were calculating with the vendors about the vacancy and the cost out of the pocket, and then we thought, okay, well, if it's 2 months, then let's just reduce it by, let's say, 5%.
Yeah.
And thereafter, it didn't happen. So we increased the price of the property up, and 3 or 4 groups walked in, 2 made an offer
Yeah, right.
from the first open home.
Yeah.
Still under negotiations at the moment. So of course I won't be able to disclose much information about which property and
Sure.
what. It goes to show the same property is now presenting like a Taj Mahal.
Have you been to the Taj Mahal?
I've been to when I was very young.
Yes, I haven't been yet. So,
Yeah?
but I'll take your word for it.
Next
Yeah. Yeah. No, very good. That's good. No, that's.